de Blasio, or de Bozo, as some people talk about, mayor of New York City, he has gotten off on the fact that New York City has been kind of this breeding ground for ideas that leftists really around the entire country would love to implement. Passports and all of that. I don't understand why they are so itching to get these children jabbed, considering the demographic that they're in. But they are. It's almost like there's there has to be something else to the story. But he has some interesting to say about your children in the event that you're going to be in New York City. Why do you guys still live there if you do? I understand. But I will say that maybe, and some of you are working to get the hell up out of there and looking at your alternatives there, because you're surrounded by brainless that seem to never learn. So let's listen to what DeBozo had to say, okay, about particularly young folk. And you listen to the question and listen to his response.
At what point will you ask them to also start checking for vax cards for 5 to 11-year-olds?
Okay. I just want to stop right there before we listen to this man answer. The fact that they are freely expressing basically 5 to 11-year-olds being forced to have papers just goes to show you how much of a really of a crazy situation that we're in this that side of the country. That it's not that they're just having the conversation, is that they so freely have the conversation as if it's worth even discussing. A vax pass, a paper. So these are 5 to 11-year-olds that often don't have even IDs, right? 5 to 11-year-olds being required to have a proof of vaccination. And I just continue to say people have, again, your beloved founders went to war for a lot less than what because these people have become so emboldened by the fact that they can get away with all of this tyrannical bullshit, all these little mini tyrants that exist all around the world. And because they've seen virtually no pushback in their areas, or you got the people that don't like it, their pushback is fighting it within the rules that they set, which is why conservatives continue to fucking lose, at least on this issue. You know, we know what happened with Virginia, but at least on this issue, because you keep believing in the status quo. It's like, oh, well, we'll just take them to court. Like, okay, these crooked ass courts. Biden the other day, your beloved court system that supposedly paused this mandate. Biden the other day, yesterday said, yeah, y'all just ignore that shit. Like, you are believing in a system in which they will only use to weaponize you. That's it. And any other time, they don't give a fuck. But they're discussing these topics freely, and that should make you feel some kind of way. But let's listen to DeBozo's answer.
That's a very good question, and honestly, one we need to focus on now. We wanted to get to the day where we actually could vaccinate the youngest New Yorkers and get that rolling. We know it'll take a while. I mean, right now, to use the example of the 12 to 17-year-olds, very good news, we're almost at 79% of them. That's fantastic, but it did take a while. So it's a great question, Elizabeth. It's one I don't think we're going to settle immediately, because it will naturally take a number of weeks for that age group to get vaccinated. But it's a question we need to answer for the weeks ahead, and we'll come back on that.
At what point will you ask them
All right,
to also...
so basically, they don't know, but they're going to do it. That's long form answer of saying that. He's going to do it. In New York City, your 5 to 11-year-old, which again, a lot of these guys don't have IDs anyway, will be required to also have a vax pass in order to go anywhere. Or the long list of businesses and other things, gatherings. I want to say, I'm just trying to make sure I say something that I'll allow, because this is an important video, so I want it to remain on, and I don't want fucking Mama Susan to be getting on to me or anything. Guys, they're not going to stop. This isn't me trying to brag about, hey, you were right. No. That's not what this is, because even on some things, I would have thought that it would have been, people would have been able to see it by now and notice that, okay, the time the line has to be drawn, okay, at least. And I was telling y'all back in March when it started with 2 weeks to slow the spread, that was not going to be the case. Even I had to argue with a lot of conservatives about that. You saw the $1 trillion stimulus packages. I said that does nothing but encourage them to continue to kick the can down the road. That is the worst thing that you can do. So you got multiple actually stimulus packages, and your beloved President Trump, who was still, signed off on it, despite it having the fluff it did have in there anyway. So we are now going into November. We're in November. And they have continued to, let's say, raise the stakes here, okay? And it's because they've gone without consequence. The NIH, for example, with Fauci, it has been confirmed that they have basically funded gain-of-function research from let's say a Wuhan lab in which the NIH funded research regarding a virus that gained in lethality moving among different species, or rather mice with human sort of characteristics. And nothing has happened to that man. He still has not been prosecuted for anything. He is still running around on TV. And despite this motherfucker lying and being a rat that he is, nothing's happened. That's just yet another example of these elites, from the unelected bureaucrats to the politicians on up and down, who have seen no consequences for their actions. These many tyrants that continue to raise, advocating state segregation, right? So you want to talk about, it's funny, they say voter ID laws are Jim Crow 2.0. No, you dipshit, this is Jim Crow 2.0. This is Jim Crow 2.0, because you're trying to build a segregation society or culture, and it's funded, endorsed, and sanctioned by the state, not just mere private institutions. Private institutions may be doing the bidding of the government, but it's coming from the top. They've seen no consequence to their actions, and now they're making their way to your kids. At what point in time do y'all concede that, okay, they're the pigeon shitting on the chessboard? They don't care about the rules. This is why I say my goal is to delegitimize. I talked about the federal government, but it's really government in general. Just got to have a starting point in the eyes of the people, and they'll act whatever way that they feel is most conducive to working towards a more free or more prosperous place. But New York City may be too far gone. You just watched a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake. Catch us live at 12 p.m. throughout the week over at youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and follow us over at odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. If you want to watch the entire video cast after the show is over, just be sure to become a member on the YouTube channel. Of course, the full audio portion of the podcast is available for free on all major digital platforms, or just visit forcanonsake.com.